She whispered, "Please save me." What officers found next shocked an entire city. Welcome to our channel, where every story carries a heartbeat and a lesson. We're so excited to have you here with us today. As you listen, we'd love for you to leave a comment below and share where in the world you're watching from. It's amazing to see how our stories connect hearts across the globe. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell, because tomorrow, a brand new story is waiting for you, one that just might touch your heart in ways you didn't expect. Stay with us on this journey. Officer Ethan Cooper, a 34-year-old veteran of the Dallas Police Department, was making his usual evening rounds through the quiet suburban streets. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the sidewalks and painting the neighborhood in a muted golden haze. As Ethan slowly drove past a line of empty storefronts, something caught his eye. A small figure, sitting all alone on the edge of the sidewalk. Curious and concerned, he pulled his cruiser over and stepped out, the crunch of gravel under his boots sounding unusually loud in the stillness. As he approached, he realized it was a little girl, no more than 7 years old. Her tiny frame was hunched forward, her knees drawn to her chest, and her wide, tear-streaked eyes stared into the distance with a vacant, broken look that tore at Ethan's heart. He knelt down a few feet away, careful not to startle her, and spoke gently. "Hey there, sweetheart. Are you okay?" For a long, agonizing second, the girl didn't move. Then, in a voice so soft it was almost a breath, she whispered 3 words that chilled Ethan to his core. "Please save me." Immediately, every instinct inside him surged into action. He knew from experience that those words were not said lightly. Ethan pulled out his radio and called for backup, requesting Officer Megan Lewis, his trusted partner who was patrolling nearby. As he waited, he kept his voice calm, offering the girl soothing reassurances, trying to bridge the gulf, a fear he could see trembling in her tiny shoulders. When Megan arrived moments later, Ethan quickly briefed her. The girl, still silent except for those haunting words, seemed overwhelmed, lost in a world far bigger and scarier than any child should ever know. Ethan, thinking fast, took out his smartphone and snapped a quick photo of the girl. Respectfully, and without startling her, he sent the image across the department's internal network, hoping that someone, somewhere, would recognize her. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours, until finally an elderly woman appeared, cautiously approaching. From the corner of the street, she looked at the girl and gasped, a hand flying to her mouth. With a trembling voice, she told Ethan and Megan that the girl was an orphan, a child without family, known to wander but never before seen in such distress. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Ethan and Megan made the decision to escort the girl back to the precinct, about 2 miles away. As they gently guided her into the cruiser, Ethan felt a surge of protective determination settle into his chest. This little girl had found the courage to ask for help, and now it was their duty to see her safe, no matter what it took. As they drove toward the station, the city lights blinking on one by one around them, Ethan knew this was only the beginning. Somewhere, hidden behind her silent tears, there was a story that needed to be uncovered, and he was ready to fight to uncover it. The ride to the precinct was filled with a heavy, loaded silence. Officer Ethan Cooper kept glancing into the rearview mirror, watching the little girl who sat curled up in the back seat, clutching the seatbelt across her small body like a lifeline. Officer Megan Lewis sat beside her, offering quiet words of comfort, though the girl didn't respond. She just stared out the window, as if searching for something, or someone, she had lost a long time ago. As soon as they pulled into the station, Ethan and Megan wasted no time. They carried the girl inside, where a small, warm interview room had been prepared. Megan knelt beside her with a cup of hot cocoa while Ethan sent out another department-wide alert, this time with more details. They needed help. Fast. They also posted the girl's photo and description on the department's local missing persons board and issued a citywide notification. Flyers were sent to shelters, hospitals, schools, anywhere someone might recognize her. It wasn't just official channels either. Soon, social media was buzzing with the little girl's image, spreading her story across Dallas faster than any siren could. Leads started to trickle in, each one a small thread of hope. A few calls came from concerned citizens claiming to recognize the girl from a playground or a bus stop, but none of the information panned out. Some said they thought she looked like a runaway from another part of the city. Others insisted she had been seen near an abandoned mall 5 miles north. Every lead seemed to end at a dead end, leaving Ethan and Megan frustrated, but no less determined. Hours passed. The girl remained mostly silent, offering only her name, Emily, in a barely audible whisper. She flinched at sudden noises, avoided eye contact, and twisted the sleeves of her oversized jacket between her tiny fingers. Ethan's gut told him there was more to her story than just a case of a lost child. There was fear embedded deep in her, the kind you didn't get just by being lost. It was the kind you carried after something bad had happened. Late that evening, as fatigue started to weigh down on the officers, the dispatch center received an unexpected call. A woman, speaking in a trembling voice, said she might have seen Emily earlier that week in a wealthy gated community on the outskirts of town. Her description was vivid. Down to the pink backpack Emily still clutched like a shield. Ethan and Megan locked eyes. Something about the tip felt different, genuine, urgent. Without wasting a second, they loaded Emily back into the cruiser, carefully buckling her in, and headed toward the address provided. The lights of the city fell away as they drove, replaced by tall iron gates, manicured lawns, and sprawling mansions stretching across acres of land. Ethan's hands tightened around the steering wheel. He didn't know exactly what they were about to walk into, but deep down, he knew one thing for sure. Emily's story was just beginning, and whatever had happened to her, it was closer than they had ever imagined. The cruiser slowed to a crawl as Officer Ethan Cooper and Officer Megan Lewis approached the heavy iron gates of the estate. Towering, oaks lined the long driveway, their gnarled branches twisting like skeletal fingers under the streetlights. Beyond the gates stood a massive stone-faced mansion, its windows dark and unwelcoming, almost as if the house itself was holding its breath. Emily shifted uneasily in the backseat. Megan caught the movement and turned around, offering her a reassuring smile. But the little girl wasn't looking at them. She was staring at the mansion, her tiny hands trembling in her lap. It wasn't just fear in her eyes anymore. It was recognition. Ethan rolled down his window and pressed the call button at the gate. After a tense minute, a gruff male voice crackled through the speaker. "What do you want?" Ethan kept his voice steady. "Dallas PD. We received a tip and would like to ask a few questions." There was a pause, too long to be natural. Finally, the gates creaked open, moving slowly as if reluctant to allow them in. Ethan exchanged a look with Megan, and together they guided the cruiser up the winding drive. A tall, middle-aged man was waiting for them at the front door, arms crossed tightly over his chest. His face was all sharp lines and cold eyes. "I don't know what you've been told," he snapped before they could even introduce themselves. "But I've never seen that child before in my life." Megan raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Ethan nodded politely, masking his growing suspicion. "We understand, sir. We just need to ask a few questions." The man, who introduced himself as Charles Whitmore, stepped aside reluctantly, letting them into the grand but eerily silent house. Expensive paintings lined the walls and the marble floors gleamed under ornate chandeliers. Everything looked immaculate, almost too perfect. As they walked through the massive foyer, Emily clung closer to Megan, her breathing quick and shallow. When they passed a closed, wooden door at the end of the hallway, Emily visibly tensed, her eyes darting toward it in pure terror. Megan squeezed her hand gently, silently reassuring her that they noticed. Whitmore kept talking, dismissing their questions with clipped, impatient answers, but Ethan was only half listening now. His instincts were screaming. Something here was wrong, deeply wrong. They wrapped up the initial questioning quickly. Ethan and Megan both knew they wouldn't get anything useful from Whitmore tonight. As they walked Emily back to the cruiser, Megan leaned in close and whispered, "She knows this place. She's been inside." Ethan nodded grimly. "And he's lying through his teeth." They stood in the driveway for a moment, staring back at the imposing mansion. The night air felt heavier now, thick with something unspoken. Emily tugged lightly at Megan's sleeve and whispered just 3 chilling words. "There are others." The blood drained from Ethan's face. Megan's jaw tightened. In that instant, any doubts vanished. Whatever darkness lived behind those grand stone walls, it wasn't just Emily's burden to bear anymore. It was theirs too, and they were going to uncover the truth, no matter what it took. The words hung in the air like smoke. There are others. Ethan Cooper felt his chest tighten as he exchanged a grave look with Megan Lewis. There was no time to hesitate. Without a second thought, Ethan called for immediate backup and secured a warrant to search the property. Whatever secrets this mansion was hiding, they were about to come crashing into the light. The next hour was a tense blur. Officers swarmed the property, while Charles Whitmore protested loudly, insisting they were violating his rights. His anger, though, only made Ethan more certain they were on the right path. Whitmore was handcuffed and placed in a patrol car, glaring out at them with venom in his eyes. Inside, the mansion's polished perfection unraveled quickly. Ethan and Megan moved methodically from room to room, searching behind furniture. Inside, closets tapping along the walls for hollow spaces. Emily stayed at the station under protection, but her quiet warning echoed in their minds with every step they took. It was Megan who found it. In the far corner of the basement, behind a heavy wine rack, she noticed scratch marks along the floor. Marks that didn't fit the pristine nature of the rest of the house. With Ethan's help, they shoved the rack aside, revealing a small, hidden door built seamlessly into the wall. Ethan's pulse thundered in his ears as he reached for the handle. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase leading down into darkness. A cold, stale air rushed out, smelling of damp stone, and something fouler beneath it. Drawing their flashlights, they descended slowly, their beams cutting through the blackness. At the bottom, they found a small room, bare concrete walls, a thin mattress thrown onto the floor, and huddled in the corner, another child. A boy, maybe 8 or 9 years old, his clothes dirty and torn, his face streaked with tears and fear. He recoiled as the lights hit him, whimpering like a wounded animal. Megan dropped to her knees immediately, speaking in a soft, soothing voice. "It's okay, buddy. You're safe now. We're here to help you." The boy didn't speak, but the way he clung desperately to Megan's hand said more than words ever could. Ethan swept the rest of the hidden chamber, his jaw clenching tighter. With every second, this wasn't just neglect, it was captivity, exploitation, evil hiding in plain sight. Above them, the sounds of angry shouting and scuffling echoed as officers secured the property. They found forged documents, wads of cash hidden in safes, and indications that Whitmore had been using the children for some twisted financial gain. It wasn't just a crime, it was a full-blown operation. As Megan carried the boy out into the fresh night air, Ethan looked back at the mansion one last time. Its grand facade couldn't mask the rot that had festered within its walls. He knew this was only the beginning of the healing process for the children they had found. But tonight, at least they had torn down a monster's kingdom. And tomorrow they would keep fighting to make sure no child would ever have to whisper for help in the shadows again. The news spread through the community like wildfire. By morning, headlines screamed across every local station. Children rescued. From secret room in Dallas mansion, wealthy businessman arrested for exploitation. Shock, outrage, and heartbreak rippled through the city. Parents clutched their own children closer. Schools held emergency meetings. Churches organized vigils. And at the center of it all, officers Ethan Cooper and Megan Lewis stood as silent, witnesses to a town waking up to an evil it had never dared imagine. Outside the precinct, a crowd had already started to form. People brought signs demanding justice, some offering prayers, others simply standing in stunned silence. Reporters shouted questions as Ethan and Megan escorted the rescued children into safer hands. Trusted social workers and child psychologists, trained to begin the long, painful journey of healing. Emily clung to Megan a moment longer before being gently passed to a foster care coordinator. Her small hand squeezed Megan's tightly, a silent plea for reassurance that she wasn't being abandoned again. Megan bent down, looking her straight in the eyes. "You're safe now, Emily," she said softly. "No one's going to hurt you ever again." The boy from the basement, identified later as Liam, had spoken little, but his presence said enough. He flinched, loud noises, and cowered from sudden movements, signs of trauma so deep it would take years to fully unravel. Child Protection Services worked swiftly to place both children in loving foster homes, environments where they could begin to trust again, to laugh again, to live without fear. Meanwhile, Charles Whitmore sat in a cold, windowless jail cell, stripped of his expensive suits and smug confidence. The charges against him multiplied with each new discovery. Multiple counts of child endangerment, false imprisonment, and human trafficking. There would be no easy escape for him, no hidden network of lawyers or money that could erase what had been uncovered. Inside the precinct, Ethan and Megan finally allowed themselves a moment to breathe. They leaned against the squad room wall, exhausted but resolute. The weight of what they had seen, what they had fought for, settled over them like a heavy blanket. But underneath it all was something else too: pride. They had answered a silent cry for help, and because they had listened, lives had been saved. Still, they knew this was far from over. There were more children out there, children without voices, trapped behind closed doors, waiting for someone to see them, someone to believe them. Ethan looked over at Megan and gave a tired but determined nod. "One case at a time," he said. Megan smiled faintly, brushing a tear from the corner of her eye. One case at a time. Outside, the crowd continued to grow, a living testament to a community's refusal to look away. And as the sun set once again over Dallas, Officers Cooper and Lewis prepared themselves for the next knock on a door, the next whispered plea, the next battle in the endless fight to protect the innocent. Thank you for joining us on today's powerful journey. Stories like Emily's and Liam's remind us that sometimes the quietest voices carry the loudest cries for help. We would love to hear your thoughts. What part of this story touched you the most? Have you ever witnessed an act of bravery or compassion in your own community? Please take a moment to share your feelings and experiences in the comments below. Your voice matters, and your words might inspire someone else to take action too. Also, let us know where you're watching from. It's incredible to see how people from all over the world come together through stories like this, united by a common hope for a better world. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss tomorrow's story. Another moving tale of courage, hope, and the fight for justice. Every comment, every like, every new subscriber strengthens this community of people who believe in standing up for what's right. Thank you for being a part of this journey with us. We can't wait to hear from you.